In this video, I'm going to talk about the difference and the similarities of the Bufo Alvarius Toad and Ayahuasca. My name is Alice, I'm from A Whole New High, and this is our channel. Welcome. So the Bufo Alvarius Toad, which I'm just going to call Bufo in this video, and Ayahuasca are both psychedelic medicines, which can be used as healing tools for mental, emotional, and sometimes even physical healing, and can also be used for the expansion of consciousness. And they're very different medicines, even though the outcome can be very similar taking them. Yeah, let me explain by telling you what the Bufo Alvarius Toad is and how you take it, and what Ayahuasca is and how you take it. So Bufo is a medicine that is taken from the Bufo Alvarius Toad, which lives in Mexico and in some parts of the US. And the toad, once a year, has a secretion on its back that contains a venom. And that venom is taken from the toad, and hopefully, like if you do decide to smoke Bufo, please make sure that it's taken from an ethical source, because some people put these frogs into captivity, and when they're in captivity, first of all, it's horrible for the animals because they're free, like they want to live in the wild, but it also destroys the quality of their venom, and you can't even use it as a good psychedelic, so why would you do it anyway? So please make sure that it's ethically sourced. So the shaman goes, takes a little bit of the venom from the back of the toad without harming the toad, puts the toad back into wildness, and then this venom can be used in a ritual where the person smokes this venom. This venom contains 5-MeO-DMT and bufotenin, and the 5-MeO-DMT is the strongest psychedelic that we know of on this earth. And you usually smoke this in a group of people, but traditionally it is being done with like just one person smokes it at a time. You usually smoke it standing up, and then you will just fall, let yourself fall. You not let yourself fall, like once it kicks in, you are just going to fall, and somebody is there to catch you and lay you on the ground. Ayahuasca is a much older medicine because Bufo hasn't been around for that long, but at least that's what we know of it. It's only been around since the 60s. Could have been around much longer, but we don't have any knowledge of that. Ayahuasca has been around for many, many years, hundreds if not thousands of years. And ayahuasca is a medicine from the Amazon, and it's a vine that can be taken, that it's usually taken in combination with another plant, and that plant can be different. It's different for every shaman. They choose a different plant, but the other plant contains always DMT. So this is combined. Ayahuasca can always be a very different mix depending on what shaman prepares it. So some shaman would put more DMT, some shamans would put more ayahuasca. You never know, but you still have some similarities in the ayahuasca rituals. And here DMT is what gives you the visions. Ayahuasca is the vine, it's also called ayahuasca, the vine that opens you up, and then the DMT helps to get the visions, to understand the message of ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is usually done, but here I say usually because there are exceptions to the rule, in a group setting where you have one shaman and then several people taking ayahuasca, and everybody is going into their own journey, and the shaman takes care to energetically cleanse every person in the room and help when help is needed. So very different rituals already, and very different substances. The 5-MeO-DMT, even though it has the name DMT in it, is very different to like taken on, like the body takes it on very differently than DMT. It is also 10 times stronger than DMT, so that's why it's, as I said, the strongest known psychedelic that we have in this world. That doesn't mean DMT is not strong, but when you do the Bufo Alvarius Toad, you will feel that this is another intensity than ayahuasca. But here again, I'm talking from my personal experience and from anecdotal evidence that I have from people that have done the same, but this is not scientifically, like has never been scientifically studied, and you personally could have had a different experience. Some people will find ayahuasca be more intense than the Bufo, but generally people would feel that the Bufo is way more intense than ayahuasca. For me, I thought ayahuasca was always really intense, and I had heard that Bufo was more intense, and I felt actually really scared to do the Bufo because I almost couldn't handle the intensity of ayahuasca. But then I found that the Bufo was a very different kind of intensity that I personally could handle better. To me, it felt like the Bufo was like a tsunami. Once I smoked, the shaman asked to count to 5. I could only count to 4. Then I have already forgotten how counting works, and it just felt like this warm wave came like a tsunami, like water. Water is soft but so forceful at the same time. So it just came over me, and I could not, even if I wanted to, I could not go against it. While in ayahuasca, it's possible for me to go against it, but then I feel like I'm fighting with ayahuasca and I'm suffering because I'm fighting and I really want to surrender, but it doesn't always work. I have, during my ayahuasca trips, learned how to surrender better, but in the beginnings there was always a lot of fighting going on. And with the Bufo, there was no way, even if I wanted to, I couldn't fight. Sometimes people try to fight, that never ends well for them because Bufo is really strong. So for me, it just came like a tsunami over me and just took me with it, and it immediately took me out of my body, and then my body was doing all these things on the floor that I was not aware of because I was not in my body. With ayahuasca, it took much longer for me to leave my body, but there are lots of people that have out-of-body experiences on ayahuasca, many, so that this is not the rule, but I still feel that it is easier for people that have difficulties leaving their body to leave their body with the Bufo psychedelic than on ayahuasca. Then another big difference is the length. And ayahuasca can take, that depends how the shaman prepares the brew, but ayahuasca can be from 6 hours to 12 hours. For some people it lasts even longer depending on how strong it is. So it can be quite a ride and very intense in this way because it is so long. And Bufo is, well, usually average 15 minutes. I have seen it go on for an hour, but that is quite rare. So it's much shorter. But at the same time, the shortness you don't really notice because you are being taken so far away that you have no more perception of time. And well, many people also say that on ayahuasca you do lose your conception of time completely, like that is the case for many. I have never lost my perception of time on ayahuasca. I was always very aware that like this is the beginning of my trip, this is the middle of my trip, this is the end, going towards the end of my trip. And I still remembered like how long an ayahuasca trip usually lasts. Like this awareness never fully left me. Even though I really wanted to have this timeless experience, it never happened. So the Bufo with the intensity, it's really hard to even think about time. And as I already said, the ritual is different because usually the Bufo is taken in a group, but one person after the other, and that is possible because it's such a short amount of time. And usually the other people are watching, and mostly it is done during daytime, while ayahuasca is mostly done at nighttime in a group setting with the shaman, and everybody takes the ayahuasca together. So everybody is high together. Then the visions that you have in both medicines are very different. The Bufo toad is not so visual as ayahuasca. Ayahuasca can be very visual, but again, that depends on how much DMT is in the brew. But it can be very visual and it can be very cryptic, and you often see lots of different colors, and you see these colors, they have a brightness to them that they usually don't have in our everyday dimension that we know. We often see images of snakes in ayahuasca because, well, we say that ayahuasca is the spirit of the snake. You even have ayahuasca art. If you type in ayahuasca art into Google, or maybe even know ayahuasca art, you have art that was created out of the visions that you get when you take ayahuasca, and that can give you an idea of the visions you will have on ayahuasca if you haven't ever taken it. Like type in ayahuasca art into Google and you will find them. On Bufo you will have very different visions, or not even, I don't even know if you can call it a vision. For Bufo it is more like a feeling, a knowing of we are all one, or you're being shown what it is to die and to pass from one world into the other. You might be shown what this beautiful place is, like where you go to when you die, and that is not very visual. It is just like a place of absolute brightness and light and love, that it's not necessarily that you see so much. But then there are some people that report having seen some things when they were on the Bufo toad, but usually it is more about feeling and experiencing and knowing on Bufo toad than it is about seeing visions. And then what else is different between the two is the aftermath of the experience. While some people can do ayahuasca at the weekend and then go to work on Monday, which is something I would not recommend, but it is much easier to do that with ayahuasca than with Bufo. Well, with Bufo, even though it only lasts 15 minutes, sometimes a bit longer, in the next 72 hours, you can have a repeat of the experience. So for the next 72 hours, you make sure that you are in a safe place, because it can repeat on you and be just as intense as these 15 minutes that you have experienced with the shaman. It doesn't always happen, but it happens quite often. It is known to happen. In ayahuasca, usually you don't have a repeat like that. You can still feel very open, very sensitive, and very emotional after an ayahuasca journey for 1 or 2 days, even sometimes for a whole week afterwards. But it's not as strong as the Bufo repeat experience that you can have. Also, after my Bufo experience, I have never felt something like that on any other psychedelic. For the next 2 weeks, I felt hypersensitive, especially when it came to sound. I felt hypersensitive to my own fears that they were coming up, and I felt extremely scared of my environment, and I had to really make sure that I would go into a safe space and I would find myself centered within myself. I had lots of emotions come up in the 2 weeks after Bufo, and it's not like that I don't have that too on ayahuasca, but the intensity was much stronger on Bufo than on than after an ayahuasca experience. But it's not to say that one is better than the other. Everybody will have their preferences, and I feel like the ayahuasca journeys have prepared me for my Bufo journey. And I would never recommend to anyone to do the Bufo journey as one of their very first experiences. Like Michael Pollan, if you have read his book, he did the Bufo Alvarius Toad as one of his first experiences, and he really didn't like it. That's because he was really not prepared for it, because it was just too early on his psychedelic journey to do this. So if you can use ayahuasca to prepare yourself for the Bufo experience, but it doesn't mean that Bufo is like going to teach you more than ayahuasca. It's just very different teachings, different way of teaching, and it's just a different experience, and it's really hard to compare, even though I've tried in this video. I would not want to miss any of the two experiences. I thought both of them were amazing. I personally preferred Bufo because I could really surrender into it, but then it was probably ayahuasca who taught me how to surrender in my first, in the several ayahuasca journeys I had in the years before I tried Bufo. So yeah, well, if you have any questions, or if you have had experience with Bufo or ayahuasca and you want to add something to what I said, or if you maybe disagree with something that I said, please add it in the comments. And if you like this video, please give us a thumb up and subscribe to our channel. And I hope to see you again. Thank you for listening.